So Luke, welcome back. We're doing sensors. So in this one, we've plugged in the IMU, soldered it through into the board, as stated already. So now we're going to step through. I'm going to show you the board a bit of the soldering work and how it's connected, what orientation that the IMU is currently set up on. Just some back of house stuff. We've got the settings already through the lecture. So the gyroscope can measure negative 250 to positive 250 degrees per second, and using the least significant bit per degree per second sensitivity that was given to us, 131 degrees. So that's the sensitivity or the scale factor we're using. And you'll see in the code that we're still keeping raw gyro data, which is what the rubric calls for, but it's just transferred into degrees per second, so it's a bit more digestible and isn't just I suppose raw data that don't really give any quantitative data at this stage. So I'm going to step through the board really quick and then go through the code and then do a little test where I'll show the serial monitor on the screen. All right, so only real key points to note on the board. It's nothing too crazy. So VCC is in the 5 volt, ground is in ground, SCL is in the A5 pin, and SDA is in the A4 pin. Now these are soldered. I didn't use any harnesses. I've soldered them. Because of its orientation, you'll notice that especially when we step through a lot of the data, the y-axis is going to operate a bit differently than if it was mounted perpendicular to the ground. So just a point of note, the reason why we're going to get that data set is because of the orientation that it's mounted on. All right, so I've looked through the board. Now we're going to run the code. Open up the serial monitor. All right, it's already running. So as you can see, I'm going to move the fish and you'll see, especially on the y-axis, the degrees per second, that's the main big change. If I just change, perfect. So it's still refreshing, but I've just paused it. So you'll be able to see here, it's converting on the y-axis mainly with all the movement. Just give some more examples. Now, the reason why I structured it this way is the rubric calls for the gyroscope's raw data, but then also converted. So whilst it is still raw data, it's just being displayed in a different format. All right, so now that we've done that test, just a quick couple of comments. So as you can see with the data that's come back, what it essentially proves outside of just being raw data in itself is that the IMU is working correctly. It's talking to the Arduino, which is then obviously being thread through the computer and looked at the serial monitor. But the main takeaway is that it's working correctly. It's wired up correctly as well. So what now? It is still raw data, so there's a ton of offsets that we still have to work through before it's going to be data that we can actually use to then feed through and control Millie's flying fish in future modules. So not getting too ahead of ourselves, the next step from here is going to be actually calibrating that data because it's still raw and it's not really usable just yet. So to summary, calibrating the data is the next step.